गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरा गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः अखण्ड मण्डलाकारं या प्रसंगेन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः वन्दं श्री अरविन्द वन्दं श्री अरविन्द वन्दं श्री अरविन्द वन्दं श्री अरविन्द वैकुंठ से आए प्रभु नरवेशधारी माधव मुरारी मुकुंद वैकुंठ से आए प्रभु नरवेशधारी माधव मुरारी मुकुंद वन्दं श्री अरविन्द वन्दं श्री अरविन्द अंधकार में कंपित धरनी झलक उठी को आए ज्ञान धनुर से सेतु बांध कर लोक आलोक मिलाए अंधकार में कंपित धरनी झलक उठी को आए ज्ञान धनुर से सेतु बांध कर लोक आलोक मिलाए जगत विधाता आए कृपावश मिटाने सब दुख द्वंद जगत विधाता आए कृपावश मिटाने सब दुख द्वंद वन्दं श्री अरविन्द वन्दं श्री अरविन्द झिलमिल बरसे नूरा, रिम झिम मोती, अति मानस से उतार लाए प्रभु रूपांतरकारी ज्योति। झिलमिल बरसे नूरा, रिम झिम मोती, अति मानस से उतार लाए प्रभु रूपांतरकारी ज्योति। रुन झुन अनहद बाजे, नव संगीत नव छंद। रुन झुन अनहद बाजे, नव संगीत नव छंद। जय जय श्री अरविंद, जय जय श्री अरविंद, जय जय श्री अरविंद, जय जय श्री अरविंद। मिटाने को अज्ञान अंधेरे, सत्य की ज्वाला आई, शक्ति बनी माँ लोकनाथ की, नया जुगांतर लाई। मिटाने को अज्ञान अंधेरे, सत्य की ज्वाला आई, शक्ति बनी माँ लोकनाथ की, नया जुगांतर लाई। झर झर बरसे सुधा, शक्ति शांति आनंद। झर झर बरसे सुधा, शक्ति शांति आनंद। नमो नमः अरविंद, 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 नमो नमः अरविंद।
Namaste, my dear brothers and sisters, boys and girls. That devotional song that you heard just now was a respectful adoration of the Guru who acts as that magnet that draws us while we are engaged in the ordinary world to a higher, another world altogether. It's the Guru that brings us that ray of light, that ray of hope, that shows us that there is a way out of this world full of difficulties and problems beyond our reach. And it is the Guru that shows us the path to the transformation that will transform us into our better selves. So it was for all these things and a lot more that cannot be easily expressed, that the devotee feels completely overwhelmed with gratitude to the Guru. Now that we are coming to the end of this module, yes.01, let me repeat briefly some of the things that we talked about day before yesterday. We have had a recent mishap in communication, but we are repairing it. We are getting in touch with you now through a proper platform with our feedback forms, and we'll do the same with the next module and the other activities that are coming, so that we will continue to be in touch, and you'll also have a couple of email addresses on which you can still reach us. The courses are all free, but donations to the ashram, Sri Aurobindo Ashram Delhi branch, are welcome, and anyone interested can write to us on the emails that we have been sharing with you in the last couple of days and will continue to share. You can write that to us, and we'll send you the details of the bank account of the ashrams where you can transfer the money. Between this module and the next module, which will start on the 7th of April, and even after that second module is over, and while the second module is going on, we will continue to be in touch on every Friday through a series of talks and some sessions of devotional music that will continue. So our contact was at least once a week would continue, and if the mother wills, it will continue for a very, very long time. Now, coming to today's session. Today's session is in a way a fun session. In a way, a session that bridges the gap between adults and children, and that is important. In a way, actually, this week has been like that. Day before yesterday, we talked about integral education, which shows how we can guide the children, attract the children towards the path that we as adults have discovered is the path that makes our well-being completely independent of external circumstances, a path that makes our life meaningful. How the children can be provided that little nudge, that little bit of attraction towards that path, as compared to the usual fleeting pleasures to which we are born to be attracted, but that is not the ultimate destiny of man. Yesterday, Dr. David Marshak took another step in that same direction, focusing on parenting, and of course, what is relevant to parents is equally relevant to teachers, and what is relevant to teachers is equally relevant to parents. So really, there is no dividing line between how we as adults, which most of the participants are in this course, can play a meaningful role in taking the next generation to a higher level, to a level beyond which we have been able to rise. And that need not be something boring, that need not be something which the children find too burdensome. It can be fun, and that is what we shall try to see today. Just because something is important, it doesn't necessarily have to be boring. It has to be taken seriously, but that should not make us dead serious. So that is what today's session will essentially be about. What we'll do to start with is to start with a story, a beautiful story written by the mother in 1904. And we'll do it with the help of a PowerPoint presentation. The story is titled, "The Virtues, a Tale for Young and Old." Once upon a time, there was a splendid palace in the heart of which lay a secret sanctuary whose threshold no being had ever crossed. Furthermore, even its outermost galleries were almost inaccessible to mortals, for the palace stood on a very high cloud, and very few in any age could find the way to it. It was the Palace of Truth. Now, in this story, you'll find that the mother has used analogies and sometimes imagery, but it is extremely appropriate to the idea being conveyed, so that be it a child or an adult reading the story, this story is not just for children. The subtitle itself that the mother has given is "A Tale for Young and Old." Now here she's talking about the Palace of Truth. Truth with a capital T. And that is something which is far, far above and beyond our ordinary conception of truth. When we say always speak the truth, this is not the truth that we are talking about. We are by and large talking about facts. And facts are only the husks of truth. That's what Sri Aurobindo said in Savitri. So one can go beyond those ordinary facts which we sometimes equate with truth, and truth can be truly truth only when it is the total truth, which incorporates everything that is. Everything that is exactly as it is. And everything that is actually the divine. That is what it actually is. And if we can see it in that way, then there remains hardly any difference between this concept of truth and the divine itself. And that is why the Mother has placed it not on this earth, not on this planet, where this type of a truth is difficult to come by, but she has kept it somewhere high up in the heavens. And then it is not the entire palace, again, which she has equated with the truth, but within that, again, there are layers. In this palace, there is a secret sanctuary, which means something which is very difficult to reach. Because to reach the total truth is not easy. Even in this palace, which is high up in the clouds, it has a secret sanctuary whose threshold no being had ever crossed. Hardly anybody has been able to cross that threshold and actually see the total truth. Even its outermost galleries, that is, which are leading to it and are pretty close to it, even those outermost galleries have been almost inaccessible to mortals. We can't easily identify ourselves with the total truth, but even to get very close to it, hardly anybody has been able to do. That is again an area that has been inaccessible to mortals. And very few in any age have been able to find the way even to the palace itself. And that is the palace of truth. However, the Mother then goes on to talk about an event that took place there. It was a festival, a party. And here she gives again a description also of the hall in which this party was going on. It was a hall which had, and what is the hall? Name of the hall? The Hall of Intelligence. Again, very carefully named, the Hall of Intelligence. Why has it been called the Hall of Intelligence? Because the highest reaches of intelligence can get pretty close to the truth, but at the same time, they can never get at the whole truth. So it is a hall. It is not the secret sanctuary which she has talked about earlier. It's a great hall, a very attractive hall, because the higher reaches of intelligence can be very tempting and can create a very almost successfully, they can create an illusion of truth. So, and how does it happen? With all the glamour and the glitter that is there. And you can see all that glamour and glitter with all these girandoles and chandeliers, on the ceiling, and the radiance that you can see in the hall. So that is what gives us an impression that the highest reaches of intelligence have reached the truth, although they still haven't. And who are the people who are attending this party? They are not ordinary people. They are gods and goddesses. And the Mother goes on to say, these are gods and goddesses who on earth are honored by the name of virtues. These are the virtues attending the party. The virtues came separately but soon formed congenial groups, full of joy to find themselves for once at least together. Again, why the Mother says that for once they were together? For they are usually so widely scattered throughout the world and the worlds, so isolated amid so many alien beings. Which means that while they are not entirely absent in the world, they are generally separate. Hardly any one person embodies all of them together. And that's why the Mother says that they are widely scattered and usually isolated rather than together. Here at last, for once, they were together, and therefore they were very happy. And as it happens in any party, they had formed small congenial groups. Now let's look at some of the virtues individually. And since we generally know what to do, but it's because of lack of sincerity, total sincerity, the other distractions that we have, that we are not able to put our knowledge into practice. And therefore, the most important thing that we need for putting knowledge into practice is sincerity. And that's why that's the virtue with which the mother starts. Sincerity reigned over the festival. She was dressed in a transparent robe. Now, why transparent? Because sincerity means you should be able to completely see through it and project things exactly as they are, do exactly what you say, and say only what you do. So that is what sincerity is about. And therefore, there's no place for any opacity there, not even translucence. She was dressed in a transparent robe like clear water and held in her hand a cube of purest crystal, through which things can be seen as they really are. So you can see that crystal there, which enables us to see things exactly as they are. So that is what sincerity holds, far different from what they usually seem, for their image is reflected without distortion. So it is this crystal that we need, the crystal of sincerity, crystal which sincerity holds for seeing things exactly as they are. Otherwise, things always get distorted and they appear different from what they are, and we somehow satisfy ourselves that I am saying and seeing things exactly as they are, but actually it is not so. That can happen only through this crystal which sincerity alone holds. And that being in a way a highly desirable, the most desirable virtue, which makes it possible for it to put into practice any other virtue, it is sincerity who has been given this central place, the virtue that reigns the festival, the party that is going on. But then she needs companions. Near to her, like two faithful guardians, sincerity needs to be guarded. It means to keep it intact, it needs at least two faithful guardians. One is humility, and just see the description of humility that the mother gives. Humility, at once respectful and proud. Humility is respectful, but at the same time, it doesn't suffer from an inferiority complex. It has that healthy pride as well. Humility, at once respectful and proud. And who is the second companion that sincerity has? The other guardian, courage. Lofty browed, clear eyed, his lips firm and smiling with a calm and resolute air. We need courage to be sincere, because being sincere means sometimes taking risks, and therefore courage is essential. But then courage again needs a companion. Close behind courage, her hand in his, stood a woman, completely veiled, of whom nothing could be seen but her searching eyes shining through her veils. It was Prudence. Now again, why prudence is required along with courage? Because courage is strong, but this strength should not be used in a rash manner. Courage doesn't mean that one has to be rude or rash. It has to be used with prudence, using common sense, and at the same time, why is prudence standing like that? Her hand in his, which means that prudence is a good companion for courage, but it should not be able to dominate courage, which means that prudence should not become an excuse for weakness, for absence of courage. That can be easily happen. One can say that, well, I have all the courage, but then it will appear rash, it will appear rude, and so on and so forth. So prudence has her hand in his, not the other way around. And then why is she completely veiled? Because it is a rather invisible virtue. And that is why she is all veiled. What we will see on the surface is courage, but the prudence that should accompany it is not so easily visible. So just the right combination. Sincerity can be practiced only with courage, And at the same time, this courage should be accompanied by politeness, it should be proper, and with common sense. All this is implied in prudence. So sincerity with these two guardians, humility and courage tempered just to the right extent, in the right way, by prudence. Another important virtue, charity. Among them all, coming and going from one to another, and yet seeming always to remain near to each one, charity. At once vigilant and calm, active and yet discreet. Now, again, just look at the description. She's one of those butterflies in a party, flitting from here to here, always circulating. And which means that all other virtues can do a bit of the light that charity brings. And that's how she's circulating all over, coming and going from one to another, and yet seeming always to remain near to each one. Nobody feels that I'm not near charity. All the other virtues still feel close to her, and that's the way she's circulating. And then what are the important characteristics she needs? Vigilant and calm. Vigilant, always trying to spot an opportunity where it can be practiced. And at the same time, not restless, calm. Vigilant and calm, active and yet discreet. Charity has to be active. You cannot just practice it passively, and yet it has to be practiced with discretion. Left behind her, as she passed through the groups, a trail of soft white light. So even after she has moved from one group to another, its influence continues. Influence not completely lost, and that influence is because of a soft white light. Where does that light come from? That light comes to her from her closest friend, her inseparable companion, her twin sister, Justice. So that's why, that's what brings it. Because, you think of charity only when you find that something unfair is going on, some injustice is being done, and then you try to correct that justice to some extent through charity. The mother has talked about this in considerable detail in words of long ago, that charity does only one bit. It compensates only partly for all the injustice that goes on in the world, and total justice, which may make charity redundant, can come only when there is a shift in the consciousness, sufficient shift in consciousness, so that the world gets dominated by love rather than the ego. Till then, charity will continue to be necessary, and that charity has its roots in our observing a certain amount of injustice. So the twin sister of charity is justice, and it is that lends charity that subtle light which it leaves behind wherever charity goes. But then charity also needs an escort of other virtues, and who are these? Kindness, patience, gentleness, solicitude, and many others. So charity has many companions, guardians, escorts, and that is what brings charity into practice. So there can be no charity without our observing injustice, no charity without kindness, patience, gentleness, etc. So the party was in full swing, and all these virtues were very happy to be together. But then, suddenly at the golden threshold, a newcomer appears. And she is very simply dressed, very ordinary in appearance. And so the guards felt that there was nothing in her appearance to impress them, and they were rather reluctant to let her in. But she did enter. She was very young and slight, and the white dress which she wore was very simple, almost poor. And what was the response of the other virtues? They went into a huddle, and they started asking each other, who is she, who is she, who is she, instead of anyone approaching her. And that made her all the more shy and embarrassed. So she just stood a short distance away from all of them, wondering what her next step should be, whom she should approach. And while she was standing there, and they were all wondering who she was, it was this air of embarrassment that filled the hall. Do you think anybody would like to talk to her at all? Who will take that initiative to ask her who she is? As you might have expected, it is Prudence who finally stepped forward and approached her. And what did Prudence do? After clearing her throat, as people do when they are embarrassed, so that's how Prudence started. After clearing her throat, as people do when they are embarrassed, to give herself a moment to reflect, she turns to her and says, "We who are gathered here and who all know each other by our names and our merits are surprised at your coming, for you appear to be a stranger to us, or at least we do not seem to have ever seen you before. Would you be so kind as to tell us who you are?" So, can you guess who she is? The newcomer says, "Alas, I am not surprised that I appear to be a stranger in this palace, for I am so rarely invited anywhere. My name is," can you guess what her name is? "My name is Gratitude." Now, the queen of the virtues is gratitude, and the mother has given us that pride of place for obvious reasons. A person with a giant-sized ego cannot have gratitude. A person who is not humble cannot have gratitude. A person who doesn't have the generosity to acknowledge what others have done for him and is not miserly with saying a thank you cannot have gratitude. A person who does not have a sense of fair play and justice cannot have gratitude. A person who doesn't have the courage to acknowledge what the person has received from everybody else cannot have gratitude. And finally, being grateful, truly grateful, not just saying a thank you, but really meaning it and feeling it, requires a great deal of truth, honesty, and sincerity. So all these virtues are incorporated in gratitude, and that is why that pride of place that the mother has given gratitude. And this is a tale that the mother wrote in 1904, and now it has been published in the form of a book which children and adults both can do with and make good use of. And here is the book, published by the ashram in the year 2021. Now we'll give you a little glimpse of some of the physical practices of yoga, how one can have fun while doing them. Not just fun, one can make a meditative session out of it. One doesn't have to be too serious about exactly how an asana to be done, exactly till how long should I hold it, till a count of 5, till a count of 10, for 10 seconds, or will it be much better to hold it for 20 seconds, and so on. One can time oneself to something which gives us joy as well as peace and a meditative experience. It can be timed with music, it can be timed with mantras, it can be timed with anything which is going on in the background, and that can help us both time ourselves as well as have a meditative experience. You'll see a short sample in a video now. Just because something is important, it does not have to be boring. If you are used to some yogic postures every day, add to the fun by having some soothing music in the background. Then you can synchronize the postures with music, going in for a new bodily movement when the song moves to a new stanza. Here is an example. Just because something is important, it does not have to be boring. Just because something is important, it does not have to be boring. If you are used to some yogic postures every day, add to the fun by having some soothing music in the background. Then you can synchronize the postures with music, going in for a new bodily movement when the song moves to a new stanza. Here is an example.
शिशु मैं तेरा वंदित कर मां वंदित कर अपने करुणामय रंग में पूरे मुखरित कर मुखरित कर अपने करुणामय रंग में मुखरित कर मुखरित कर अपने पग नख अपने पद नख के सौरभ से अपने पद नख के सौरभ से सुरभित कर मां सुरभित कर कली सा मेरा मानस विकसित कर मां विकसित कर सरल सुखद शिशु मैं तेरा सरल सुभग शिशु मैं तेरा वंदित कर मां वंदित कर वंदित कर मां वंदित कर नंदित कर मां नंदित कर स्पंदित कर स्पंदित कर
So you saw how Monica was synchronizing her movements with the music. She was using the transition from one stanza to the music without any vocals, and then that music without any vocals to the next stanza for making the transition from one posture to the relaxation between the postures, and then the relaxation between the postures to the next posture. So the music was synchronized with the movements. She was just listening to the music, enjoying the music, and then just synchronizing the movements with that. And with practice, these movements become so mechanical that you are focused more on the meditative aspect of the music than the movements. So that's how yoga can be both fun and a meditative, uplifting experience. Now we move on to the next story, which shows that some of the aspects of yoga can be explained quite easily even to a 3-year-old child. One doesn't have to wait that, let the child be a little grown up. As a child of 3, if the child just understands that yoga means these postures, it's okay. The other aspects can be taught later on. Even a 3-year child can be told how yoga in fact goes much beyond these postures, and in a way that the child can understand. It's the level of the child, and without sermonizing about the deeper aspects of yoga. So that is what this story will try to do. Deepa knows 3 yogas. Deepa is a 4-year-old girl. She has a younger brother, Deepak. Deepak is 2. Deepa and Deepak live in Delhi. When Deepak was born, Deepa called him baby. She still calls him baby. When Deepak and their parents sit down to eat, Deepa eats on her own, as any 4-year-old can. Deepak tries to eat on his own, but cannot. That is what every 2-year-old does. He needs help from mummy or papa, but he does not like it when mummy or papa try to feed him. Deepa tells Deepak, that's what a big sister would do, I am big, I can eat on my own. Baby, you are little, let mummy feed you. Then she adds, as a consolation to her brother, baby, when you will grow up, you will also eat on your own. One day mummy said to Deepa and Deepak, we'll go to see your grandparents. They live in Mumbai. Deepak asked, where is Mumbai? Mumbai is very far, said mummy. Then I'll go in your lap, said Deepak. Deepa laughed and said, silly baby, nobody can walk up to Mumbai. We'll go there by train. They went to Mumbai by train. It was fun. The grandparents were very happy to see them. They loved Deepa and Deepak very much. All grandparents do that. The grandmother made delicious sweets for them. Deepa asked mummy, why don't you make such sweets? Mummy said, I learned them this time from mummy. So, even as adults, we continue to learn something from parents. Deepa said, why do you call Nani? Nani, is what we call the mother's mother. That is the maternal grandmother. In Hindi, we call her Nani. Why do you call Nani mummy? Mummy said, because she is my mummy. Deepa said, I'll also call her mummy. Soon Deepa and Deepak were both shouting and laughing, mummy, mummy, mummy. Then everybody laughed. Deepa and Deepak's grandparents got up early in the morning. They spread mats on the floor. Deepa and Deepak peeped in and saw them lying down on the mat. Then the grandparents started making some funny movements. Deepa went and asked mummy, what are Nanu and Nani doing? Nanu is the grandfather and Nani the grandmother. Mummy said, they are doing yoga. Deepak made some movements and said, yoga, yoga. Deepa shouted, mummy, mummy, see baby is doing yoga. Then she said, I can also do yoga, and started copying Deepak. The grandparents did yoga every day. Deepa and Deepak started watching them carefully and soon started copying some of their movements. Deepak could do many things that the grandparents did and enjoyed it. In fact, this is the best way to get children into the habit of doing these practices. If the child observes the parents or grandparents doing it, the child feels that, well, this is also an ordinary part of life, like eating or sleeping, and the child starts doing it. And in fact, this brings out Sri Aurobindo's principle also, nothing can be taught. You don't have to teach them. They learn it because they want to. Children always want to learn new things, including these postures. And that's why the children spontaneously started copying these postures. Not only that, another aspect of nothing can be taught is that knowledge is in fact inherent in us. And when it comes to these postures, again knowledge seems to be inherent, because you will find that many movements of children actually resemble yogic postures, and their body is so flexible that even if they do it carelessly, they don't get any injury. They don't need a warm-up. Deepa could do everything that Deepak did and enjoyed it. Deepa could also do a few things that Nanu and Nani did, but Deepak could not. Like say this Vrikshasana. When she did them, she told Deepak, "You cannot do it because you are little. When you grow up, you'll also be able to do it." Mummy said, "Don't call him little. He's small, not little." Deepa said, "Oh, Mummy, it's the same thing." Although you know why her mother intervened. One day, Deepa saw her Nanu and Nani sitting quietly with the eyes closed. She knew they were not to be disturbed. It was obvious that she should not disturb them. So she went close to her mother and whispered to her mother, "What are Nanu and Nani doing? Why have they closed their eyes?" Mummy replied, "They are meditating. This is also yoga." They have closed their eyes so that they can hear better. When the eyes are open, we see more than we hear. When the eyes are closed, we do not see anything and therefore we can hear better. Deepa asked, "What are they trying to hear?" Mummy replied, "They are trying to listen to God." Deepa asked her mother, "Why don't you also do yoga?" Mummy replied, "I used to do all this, but now there is no time. Sometimes you want me and sometimes baby wants me. I'll start it again after you are both a little grown up. Then I'll do it with both of you." Deepa said, "Mummy, I'm sorry we stop you from doing yoga." Mummy said, "No, you don't. Now this is my yoga," said she as she hugged both Deepa and Deepak tightly. Deepa and Deepak were very happy to get the hug. But Deepa asked, "How can this be yoga?" Mummy said, "Yoga takes us closer to God. I see God in you and Deepak. That is why when I hug you, I feel closer to God." Deepa ran to Papa, her father, and said, "Papa, Mummy has taught me what yoga is. Now I know this is yoga. This is also yoga. And this is also yoga." And then there is a multiple choice question for the children. Which of these is not yoga? So you can see a reflection of the three yogas that Deepa has learnt. And there is a fourth picture which is obviously not yoga. And this story is part of a book. One book, two stories. And after this one, we'll see the next story. This book was published by Sri Aurobindo Ashram Delhi branch in the year 2020. So you saw this through this story, how the broader aspects of yoga to some extent can be brought even to a 3-year-old, so that right from that age the child will not grow up with the impression that yoga is synonymous with the postures. Next story in the same book, Anita deals with a quarrel. The table was laid, the plate was waiting for food. It had a knife on one side, a fork on the other, and a spoon on the third. On the fourth side was the chair on which Anita was going to sit and eat. The knife said, "I cut the food." The fork said, "I hold it." The spoon said, "I hold it even better." That started a quarrel. So easy to start a quarrel, just show off. The spoon said, "I hold it even better. Better than the fork." And that started a quarrel. The fork said, "May I know how you hold it better?" The spoon said, "You are difficult to handle. You have spaces through which food can slip out." The knife said, "The fork is my friend. We work together. Together we can do what you cannot." The spoon said, "I can do everything that both of you can and much more. That is why Anita uses only me so often." The quarrel grew bigger and bigger, with the knife and fork on one side, spoon on the other. The plate was getting upset by the quarrel around her. "Stop it," she said, but they didn't. Then came Anita. Anita put food in the plate. When she saw the knife, fork and spoon quarreling, she was upset. "Stop it," she said, but they didn't. Anita said to herself, "I don't like these quarrelsome creatures. I don't need any of them." She decided to eat with her hands, and she did. Now, the knife could not cut anything, the fork could not hold anything, and the spoon could not do anything either. But still, Anita had her food. She picked up the plate to clean it and left the knife, fork, and spoon to handle their dispute, to settle their dispute. When I have told this story to the children, generally the message that they derive is that we should not fight with each other. While that is a good lesson to learn, there's another subtle lesson which the children would probably sooner or later internalize, or maybe if you take them through a reflection will arrive at, is that the knife, the fork and the spoon didn't realize that they could do what they could do only when Anita holds them. And in the same way, we are able to do something only when that unseen hand of the divine is behind us. So we are in fact instruments of the divine, just as the knife, the fork and the spoon were instruments in the hands of Anita. So that is the sort of message that is implied in the story in a subtle manner, without sermonizing. Telling a story and after the story asking the children, what did you learn from the story, is no longer considered the right way to make a story educative. You just have to imply the message and leave it there. At the most, take the child through a reflection and let the child come out with the lesson, or just internalize it without even spelling it out. So this was the second story in the book, One Book, Two Stories, which was published by Sri Aurobindo Ashram Delhi branch in the year 2020. Now the next story will bring out another important aspect of yoga. The title of the story is, "Can You Kiss Your Own Face?" It's the story of a girl, Maya, who is 3-year-old. And when a child is 3, they are very happy that now they are a little grown up. In fact, they feel that they are now really grown up, and they also realize that on every birthday they grow up still more. They become conscious of it and they enjoy it. They enjoy it so much that a 3-year-old, after she is 3.5, doesn't say "I'm 3." She says "I'm 3.5." She wants to emphasize I'm a little more than 3. So the girl here is Maya. She is 3. She says, "I'm a big girl now. I'm 3 and on my happy birthday I'll be 4. When Maya's mother tries to feed her, she says, "Mummy, I'll do it myself." Anyone who has experienced a child above 2 would see that they go through that phase from 2 till about 4, that they want to do everything on their own, even if they make a mess of it. But that's how they learn to do new things. When her mother tries to help her write, she says, "Mummy, I'll do it myself." When her mother tries to help her climb the stairs, she says, "Mummy, I can climb on my own." When her mother tries to help her brush her teeth, she says, "Mummy, I'll do it on my own." When her mother tries to help her with the bath, she says, "Mummy, I'll do it on my own." When her mother tries to help her dress, she says, "Mummy, I can do it all by myself." But when her mother tries to kiss her, she does not say, "Mummy, I'll do it on my own." She lets Mummy do it. After getting a kiss, Maya is very happy. And so is her mother. Maya also gives a kiss back to Mummy. After giving a kiss, Maya is still more happy, and her mother is also still more happy. Maya lets Mummy kiss her face because Maya cannot kiss her own face. Maya's mummy also cannot kiss her own face. I too cannot kiss my own face. Do you know somebody who can kiss her own face? In this little book, "Can You Kiss Your Own Face?" was published by the National Book Trust India in the year 2020. Thank you. Now, this book brought out another key aspect of yoga, and that is love. Giving love and receiving love both are in need, both are necessary for spiritual growth, and that's why when the mother gives a kiss to the child, both of them are happy. When the child returns it back, again both of them are very happy. And apart from that, another important lesson that it brings out is that while the child's independence has to be encouraged and fostered, which is the current trend, if the child wants to do it on her own, even if she takes a risk, a little risk, even if she makes a mess, let her do it. That's how she'll learn new things. That is, of course, very important. But at the same time, what we have to realize is that we live in an interdependent world. None of us can live entirely on our own. And that is what comes out through this, at least one thing which we can't do on our own, and that is we can't kiss our own face. And that fulfills an important need, in a way, the need for happiness. And in fact, none of us can be happy in the world as an island. It's only through through our interrelatedness, through our love which expresses that interrelatedness, through the giving that expresses that love, that we ensure not only the happiness of other people around us, but also our own happiness. Any questions?
Namaste, sir. Actually, I don't have a question, but I want to express my gratitude towards you for such a wonderful course. And I received all my books yesterday, the Spirituality 24/7 and the children's book, the stories that you just read. My children are very happy. So I just wanted to convey my thank you to you and the entire team. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. It's only when it reaches people that the effort is worthwhile. So we're trying to take it to everybody by any means possible, through books, through these courses, and then through the videos which will be there on YouTube. That's what we are trying to do.
Thank you, sir. I also wanted to say that my 6-year-old daughter is fascinated by that Kavya story. Yesterday, I read it to her and she was very fascinated by it. So once again, thank you to you.
Thank you.
Hello, Namaste, Dr. Bijlani.
Yogi ji.
I don't have any question, but I want to express my gratitude to you. I thoroughly enjoyed this course. I won't be able to attend it tomorrow since I'm traveling. But as a yoga teacher, I found it a lot of value in this course. So thank you for your wisdom and knowledge that you shared with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for very, very enriching experience that you have given us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you, the team. Thank you, team.
Speak for 2 minutes, then we can start with music. So I hope you did have some fun today. Although, in the beginning, this is not the way we had planned the session. It could be a whole 1 hour session of yogic practices synchronized with music. And that's what we had thought initially. And maybe we'll do that as the first video in the next module, which will be on nutrition. The theory in the next module will be on nutrition. The practicals will be such that they'll try to take you one step closer to becoming yoga teachers. But to start with, in the next module, the first class, 1 hour class, can be synchronized with music. I've also done it sometimes not synchronized with music, but synchronized with the shlokas of the Gita. So you hold the posture while one shloka is going on, then have relaxation during the next shloka, and then in the next one you are doing the next posture, and so on. So it can be synchronized with the music in terms of stanzas, or it can be synchronized with the shlokas from the Gita, or anything else. It's just the principle which is important. One can synchronize it with many other such soothing auditory experiences. One can practice these postures with the eyes closed. Once you have practiced them, most of them can be done with the eyes closed and with this auditory experience in the background, and the movement becomes so mechanical that you can keep moving from one posture to the next while remaining connected to a higher force with music as a soothing background.
There is one question in the chat box. My child doesn't enjoy the fitness session but enjoys sport class a lot. How can I encourage him to give some value to fitness class?
Like sports. Well, that is but natural. As you know, we were trying to say in this that we don't have to make something so boring that the person is put off. In fact, we sometimes do something worse than just making it boring. One of the forms of punishment that is given in schools, or at least used to be given, was to go and take, say, 4 rounds of the playfield, run around the playfield 4 times. Now, the impression that the child picks up is that physical activity like jogging is a punishment. Then how will the child learn to enjoy it? But of course, understandable that the child likes sports better than just fitness through maybe jogging or any other forms of practices in the gym, or asanas done very seriously in a particular way, in a particular sequence, and so on. So what is important is that some degree of physical activity is important, and then in that physical activity, in a subtle manner, we have to build in the element of doing it in a gentle, harmonious, graceful, and conscious manner. So when we do that, even sports can become a yogic experience gradually. And on the other hand, as we saw the other day, if the postures are done without that type of an attitude, without that type of consciousness, even the postures will remain asanas, they will not become yogasanas. So the dividing line between the two is not whether we are doing it under the heading of fitness or under the heading of yoga or under the heading of sports. The important thing is to bring in the right elements into the bodily movements. That is what has to be encouraged. And if we try to fight the sort of cut the wood against the grain, as it is said, child likes sports but you insist on fitness, the child will, if anything, be perhaps further discouraged from physical activity. So the important thing is physical activity, and then in a subtle manner, without sermonizing, taking the child towards more conscious movements. That is what is important. In fact, some schools of yoga have done quite a bit of work on trying to make yogic postures more interesting to children. And the pioneering work in this was done by the Bihar School of Yoga, and they have a book now published in 2 volumes on how to make yogic practices interesting for children. And some of those practices can be done by the child alone, trying to imitate different types of animals, not only the postures but also the sounds produced by the animals and so on. But some of them can be done in groups also, particular pairs. 2 children can do it together, form a wheelbarrow and things like that. So they end up doing yogic postures, but without feeling they are doing those, it becomes a game. No other questions, then we can have a little longer meditative music today.
प्राणों में श्री अरविंद, नैनों में श्री अरविंद, प्राणों में श्री अरविंद, नैनों में श्री अरविंद, प्राणों में श्री अरविंद, नैनों में श्री अरविंद। ओ देवता, तन मन में तू बस गया देवता, मेरे तन मन में तू बस गया देवता। प्राणों में श्री अरविंद, नैनों में श्री अरविंद, प्राणों में श्री अरविंद, नैनों में श्री अरविंद। तेरी सजी पालकी तो किरणें गाने लगी, रुत हो गई चंपई, पवन गुनगुनाने लगे। तूने दिया विश्व को गुलाबी सुबह का पता, ओ देवता, ज्योति के देवता, मेरे तन मन में तू बस गया देवता, मेरे तन मन में तू बस गया देवता। प्राणों में श्री अरविंद, नैनों में श्री अरविंद। जिस तक न कोई गया तू पहुँचा उसी प्रांत में, तूने एकांत में। कहते हैं आकाश से सितारे तेरी कथा, ओ देवता ज्योति के देवता, मेरे तन मन में तू बस गया देवता। प्राणों में श्री अरविंद, नैनों में श्री अरविंद, प्राणों में श्री अरविंद, नैनों में श्री अरविंद। तूने जो आवाज दी अंधेरा थर्रा गया। सूरज नई भोर को लिए द्वार पर आ गया। आनंद में तैरने लगी आदमी की व्यथा, ओ देवता